Oh, wow, that was a double. Did you guys see that?
Grows late. This is not the future I had foreseen.
Hey, another one.
Forged by thought, destiny winds.
Charged arrows.
What's going on, boys? Got another one for you here, and I finally have the crit-based ice shot, my final form of the ice shot build. And I wanted to go ahead and get the guide out. I know I'm a couple days late on it, but you know, unfortunately things happen, and that's just the way it goes. But we'll get right into it. And this build, you know, I'm sure from the clips, you know, I've dropped a ton of money. We've beaten all the bosses. We've completely filled out our tree, minus expedition, just because we can't find the boss in there. I haven't prioritized it, but otherwise everything else is filled out. You know, it's done all the stuff we needed to our tree. We've beaten all the arbiters. We've done everything we need. You know, we've done all the ritual bosses. We've done all the breach. So this build has been a lot of fun. You know, this is definitely of the two builds. This has kind of become my favorite, I think, of the two between this and the poison build. The poison build is still fantastic, but this one is just so good. So as you can see, we're sitting at 152,000 tooltip, and the build just absolutely rips. So what I will say before we get into it is this is a slightly more expensive version than my previous one. The other, if you want something a little cheaper, something to get, you know, maybe to get started, or maybe you're newer to the game, the other one is a little bit easier. I'll put the link in the description for kind of the starter version. But really the only difference that you're going to find between the two is that this build scales critical strike chance, and the other build scales plus to projectile skill gems. So that's really the difference. Otherwise, everything else is pretty much the same. So if you do want to start with the cheaper version, again, link in the description, you could start there, and it's a fairly easy transition. I would recommend you kind of review both Mobalytics so that you can get an idea of what you'll be looking for when you do transition to the crit version. But yeah, that's the primary difference, is that you're, instead of scaling plus to projectile skill gems, we scale crit chance, which is really, really nice for our mana. We do not have to focus nearly as much into mana regeneration, mana on kill. You still need mana on kill and all that, but you don't. But it's much easier to maintain your mana and not run out as quickly. We still run out and things like that, especially during bosses with cast on crit and stuff like that, or cast on shock. I'm sorry, but otherwise, it's much better, and the damage is arguably better, in my opinion, than it is if you go crit as opposed to scaling plus to projectile skill gems. It just is a little bit more expensive to do so. So, with that being said, we'll just get right into the gems. And again, all of this is in the Mobalytics. We'll do a quick review of that at the end. But we're using Ice Shot, Inspiration, Ice Bite, Primal Armament, Fork, and Martial Tempo. Then in Lightning Rod for our single target DPS, we use Scatter Shot, Concentrated Effect, Heft, Close Combat, and Rising Tempest. And in conjunction with Lightning Rod, and I'll show you how it works here in a second, we use Orb of Storms, Chain, Unleash, and Overabundance. All right? And then Cast on Shock. This is the last aura that I put in, was Cast on Shock, and it wasn't until I had 60 on my body armor and then another 15 on the amulet that allowed me to do so. So that was when I finally put Cast on Shock in. So that's lowest priority of all the buffs / auras. You want to start with Wind Dancer, Cannibalism, Blind, and Clarity. Herald of Thunder with Cold Infusion, Glaciation, Ambush, and Lightning Mastery. Herald of Ice has Coursing Current, Enervate, Magnified Effect, Long Shot, Lightning Infusion. Real quick, you might be wondering, well, why do you have Cold support gems in Herald of Thunder and Lightning support gems in Herald of Ice? The reason being is they are considered attacks, so they are able to proc each other. So if Herald of Ice is shocking, it is able to proc Herald of Thunder, and vice versa. If Herald of Thunder is freezing, it is able to proc Herald of Ice. So it's super, super powerful and a really nice. I don't know, why it works this way, or why I know why it works this way. I don't know why they set it up to be an attack tag, but while it is, we're going to take advantage of it, and it just is insane with the clear. If you have it set up this way, you do not have to use a Pulsacrine ring for clear. You just need to make sure you have a proper source of cold damage so that you can consistently freeze. And then lastly, Cast on Shock has Ball Lightning, Deceleration, Energy Retention, Impetus, and Freezing Mark. This is just to help me get freeze on the boss because we do a ton of extra damage to frozen enemies. So when you add a Cast on Shock or Cast on Freeze into the build, you will run into some mana problems that you will absolutely delete bosses, but you will have some issues. So what we do to solve that is when we enter a boss room, we actually just throw on Thief's Torment and take off one of our rings. You can only use one of these at a time, so it does cancel out your other one, but there's no reason to take them both off. So all you do is you swap that, and you're good to go. Finish your map, kill all the stuff, and as you enter the boss room, do a quick swap, and this will allow you to maintain mana much easier. You don't really need it until you use Cast on Shock or Cast on Freeze for clear, Cast on Shock for bossing. I prefer, obviously, we're fine clear, so we prefer the Cast on Shock because it's very, very beneficial when bossing. So, but again, when you do add that, this is the last aura that you add, but you're going to want to have a Thief's Torment. These are about a divine. I corrupted this one and it hits skill speed, so I've just been using it. But they're not crazy, and it's absolutely bonkers. Main reason being is that gain 15 mana per enemy hit with attacks. So every time you hit an enemy, the boss with any form of attack, you get 15 just flat mana. So it's really, really nice, but it is necessary for when you add a cast on. So that's that. Now kind of getting into lightning rod. You know, we use our ice shot for everything in the game clear wise. So mapping, we're basically almost exclusively using ice shot, right? But when you start bossing, what you want to do is you want to drop Orb of Storms around the boss, and then you're just going to spam lightning rod into the Orb of Storms. It'll chain and does an insane amount of damage. It starts to proc your cast on shock, and you just absolutely annihilate bosses. So this is actually fubgun single target. I tried a couple other things. Unfortunately, nothing else really stands up to this. So I went ahead and took this from him, and it's absolutely bonkers. So we just, you know, again, from the clips I'm sure you saw, we absolutely delete bosses. You know, ice shot destroys all of everything in the maps, and it feels really, really good. So that's that real quick. Getting into the gear. Now this is important. Your bow, you want to have obviously as much physical damage as you possibly can on it, right? Just that's pretty standard. Now, you can either get all fizz, which is fine, but it will require you to get cold and lightning elsewhere in the build. And I'll go over really quickly what your options are to get cold and lightning damage. So obviously you can have it on the bow. We have flat lightning there. We have it on the quiver with lightning, right? So this is this lightning damage is allowing our ice shot to shock, but we want our lightning rod to freeze when we fight bosses. So we need to add cold damage somewhere. So your options are, I don't have it. You can add it on your rings. I have physical damage here and then percent cold, but that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for flat cold, just straight up cold damage, not a percent. So the way we get it is we actually use a Against the Darkness jewel that gives us 4% of damage as extra cold. And then we have, and that's on every single one of the big nodes is giving us 4% damage as extra cold. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I have a jewel that gives us a 6th here, but 6 times 4, so that's 24% damage of our damage as extra cold. So that's where we're getting our cold is the jewel, and we're getting the lightning from the quiver and the bow. Now, it doesn't matter what your order is here. You can get cold on the quiver, lightning on the bow, and then maybe you can get whatever you need for the jewel. You could get cold on both the lightning and the bow, or cold on the bow and also the quiver, and then get the lightning on the jewel. You know, there's a million different ways you can do it. It's just what's the easiest for you to obtain, what can you afford, things like that. But you need to have flat lightning and you need to have cold in there, flat cold. So flat like this where it says adds, you know, whatever 2 to 17 cold damage to attacks, or again you can use the jewel, but you do have to have added lightning and you have to have added cold to get the full benefit of everything, to get, so again, so that ice shock can shock and so that lightning rod can freeze. Okay, so just keep that in mind. It is important that you get those sources somewhere. It doesn't have to look just like mine. It's, you know, but you do need to get those. So just to get through that. Now, the next most important thing on your bow is that critical hit chance, and that's because this is local critical hit chance. So it's much greater having it here than it is having it on a, you know, a percent on a jewel or something like that. This is where it all begins. This is where your crit chance starts. So it's very, very important you get crit chance on your bow as high as you possibly can. I think it goes up to 5. Mine's rolled a little bit low. And this is not a crazy bow. You know, this is not an absolutely ridiculous bow. It's got 297 fizz, and then it's got good crit, and it's got a little bit of added attack speed. So this is not a crazy expensive bow. And then we actually, instead of using physical runes, we use critical damage bonus soul cores, and they're very inexpensive. They're not crazy, so these are super easy and will add a ton of damage. So you don't need a crazy damage bow. You need good damage. Around 300 is what you should shoot for on the kind of serviceable end. But the crit chance is what's very, very important here. So keep that in mind. Make sure that when you're getting your bow, you're looking for that crit chance on your bow. Next, going to the quiver, we obviously, you know, the quivers are very, very powerful in the game right now. So we're specifically looking for a visceral quiver with critical strike chance on it. We don't need +2 to projectiles. We don't need any of that stuff. We need crit. We need a visceral quiver with critical hit chance to attacks, and then everything else is the bonuses, right? So, you know, damage to bow skills, very important. Added lightning or physical or cold, depending on what you can get. Attack speed. What really made this expensive was getting all of those things with critical damage bonus. So I would worry about the critical damage bonus last, even though it is an important part of the damage. The most important thing here is high critical hit chance, as high as you can get. So you want, like I said, a visceral quiver that also has critical hit chance for attacks rolled onto it. So as you can see, we're getting 67% increased critical hit chance from attacks from this quiver, which is absolutely massive. So that's where it all begins. And then little by little, you can, you know, if you have a ton of money, go buy yourself a nice quiver. If you don't have a ton of money, little by little, start adding some of the other things in. But make sure you have some of the flat damage that you need, whether it be cold or lightning. So keep that in mind. Crit, most important part of this on a visceral quiver. Helmet, life, evasion, resistances. We have a bunch of rarity. Obviously, we're trying to build a magic find character, so we try to have rarity on as much of the stuff as we can. We're at about 136% on our character. And then you have rarity on the ring with a bunch of resistances and life. Do not skip out on the life. People want to always kind of look for the other things. Don't skip out on the life. Make sure your rings have life. That is just, again, unless you have a bunch of life all over everything, which is hard to do, because if you're using, you know, maybe if you have a unique belt, you can lose, or a normal belt that has and you're not using headhunter, you could lose a life on a ring and have a bunch of damage or something like that. But if you're using headhunter and you're using hands of wisdom, you're going to need life on your ring. So you want it, 2K is the minimum. I like being around 2,400 if possible, but 2,000 life is the minimum for end game content, and you're still going to feel really squishy. If you can get it up to 24, 2,500, it'll feel much better. But, you know, again, it is difficult to get life on rings with all the other desirable stuff that you want. So this one, life, rarity, resistances. This one is damage, rarity, a bunch of mana reservation, and some dexterity. Again, nothing super special here. Really nice fizz roll, all that kind of stuff, but nothing super crazy. Make sure you get your resistances and all that stuff sorted out. Amulet. I personally like going for the flat life plus the percent life. Percent life's very, very powerful in this game. As you can see, we're at 2389. If we take this off, takes us down to 2100. So it's quite a lot of life for that. We get a little bit of spirit, so now we can run all of our auras. You only need the 15 here if you can get 60 here, so you need an added 75. However you can manage to find that is fine. It doesn't matter. +3 to projectile skills. This is where we add that on there. Again, you don't, do your best you can if you can afford a 1, because you need life and all that kind of stuff. Maybe some intelligence, some dex, whatever. Same situation. Slowly work your way up to a 3, but start on a 1 or a 2 or whatever. You can also get crit chance on the amulet, which is really, really nice. Ideally, this does have crit chance. This amulet's really nice, so we're giving up a little bit of crit chance on our amulet, but that is also an option that you could look for instead of, obviously intelligence is nice, but maybe, you skip the projectile skills for now and just go crit chance or whatever the case is. That's all fine. Body armor, same thing. Life, evasion, resistances, attributes, spirit. Again, just because getting spirit, you can get spirit on your amulet, that you can, but it is much more expensive to get an amulet that looks like this with spirit than it is to get this amulet and then get spirit on your body armor. So I prefer it on the body armor. You know, some people want to use unique chests, all that kind of stuff. If that's the case, then you're going to need it on an amulet, but you are going to pay. And then obviously gloves, we are on Hands of Wisdom. I corrupted these ones, so it hit lightning penetration, and then I added the rarity soul core. Boots, we have just movement speed, life, resistances, nothing special here. There's nothing crazy about these boots. These you can get a nice pair of boots that look like this for a divine or two. Nothing crazy, couple resists. So that's that. And then as far as flask, we use both of the unique ones that are very, very expensive. If you can afford them, you definitely should get them, but they are quite expensive. This one's 27 divines, and this one is 22 divines. So these are super expensive. If that's the case and you can't afford to get them, which it took me quite a while, I just used flasks like this. 28% recovery applied instantly and gains 0.25 charges per second. So you can get that on a life flask and a mana flask. This one is not it, but as you can see, this has recovered instantly. But that's what you're looking for. That's the ideal if you're just going to use normal magic ones and you can't afford these yet. Or if you have them, use these. They're really powerful, but again, they're very expensive. For our charm, we just use one, and we're using the golden charm just for rarity, a little bit of extra magic find, and that's that. So pretty simple, not too bad. Getting into the perk tree. All pretty standard stuff. Basically, what we do on this build is we try to chase down all the jewel sockets. So my recommendation is that while you're building this, you know, while you're leveling it or whatever, try to keep an eye out for jewels. Jewels are an integral part of this build and very, very important. The rare ones, especially, the unique ones are really good too, but the rare ones that look something like this, basically you're looking for critical hit chance for attacks and increased bonuses gained from equip quiver. Those are the two primary ones that you want to have on every single jewel if you can, and then all of the other ones will be a bonus. Like this one only has 3 desirable mods. We have attack speed with bows. These are not super cheap, but this is how this is how you get to where we are. Here you go again. Attack speed, critical hit chance, damage gained from equip quiver or bonuses. Same thing here. So as you can see, the theme is we have crit chance and equip quiver on all of them, and then we just try to add in 1, maybe 2 other desirable mods if we can afford it. We have 2 unique jewels. This is the one that you're definitely going to want to get your hands on, and this is what's giving. You don't need to find one with both damages on it, but like I said earlier, you need to, if you have lightning on your quiver, you need to get cold here. If you have cold on your quiver, you need to get lightning damage here. So just keep in mind, these are super, super powerful. And again, each one of the big nodes, we have 2+4s on it. So each big node, we're getting, gain 8% of damage as extra cold and chaos. So super powerful. It's a ton of damage, but this is not a cheap jewel. And in a perfect world, this would be damage is extra cold and damage is extra lightning, not chaos. But this is what we could afford for the time being. Our other unique jewel is a megalomaniac. This is not important. You'd be just fine if you used another equipped quiver critical strike chance for attacks. The reason why this is really nice is it is when we use this jewel, it allocates staggering palm, which is critical damage bonus, knockback, and physical damage. And then it also counts as one of the passives for our jewels. So we actually get another 8% damage as extra cold and chaos as well by using a megalomaniac. And then our other one is escape velocity, which is this node. And so this actually, I did have this connected here, but because we were able to find this, I actually got a point back for free because I was able to allocate this. And then we go up through the attributes because we benefit heavily from the attributes. So again, this one is not quite as important, but it can be very, very helpful, and it can add a ton of damage if you can find a staggering palm or a warding potions or an altered brain chemistry or a sharp side or whatever the case is. It can be really nice to be able to save some points and still allocate an extra one of these notables. So again, we're a little bit squishy. We're at 52% evasion with acrobatics, so it's a 50-50 whether we get hit by everything. It's pretty low, but it's good enough for now. Our damage is high. We're basically we're getting pretty glass cannon-y at this point where we're relying on our damage to keep us alive. While you're leveling, you may want to stay spec'd into some of this evasion stuff just to keep you a little bit more safe. Otherwise, like I said, we chase all the jewel sockets. We want as much movement speed and attack speed as we can get. We take all the quiver stuff. We come back through here. As you can see, I've got a couple points in here just into movement speed. These might be suited better somewhere else. Like maybe I could put them here, something like that. But movement speed's very difficult to get in this game, so we creep over there for that. take the herald stuff, and this is the difference now. So this is all the crit stuff that we want. This is a big crit node. This is a lot of damage. And then this is our other big crit node or tree that we take here. So this adds a lot of crit chance and crit damage. We come back up. We have another little crit one up here, which is a lot of crit chance, but you do lose a bit of your crit damage bonus. It is worth it, I promise. And then we take heavy frost, thin ice, cruise all the way up, grab another jewel socket. So as you can see, we're pretty strewn about just chasing down jewel sockets. It's very important that you do so, and it's important that you don't chase those down until you have good jewels to put in there. Otherwise, like while you're leveling, you can kind of fill out all this other stuff. There's plenty of things to fill out, not chasing jewel sockets, but you do want to get these as soon as you possibly can. The quiver is going to, if you can only afford to get one, go with the quiver first, because that'll boost your quiver that has crit on it. And then next, as far as money goes, then start working in the crit. But you do want to get crit as soon as you possibly can. So that's the tree. Nothing crazy as far as ascendancy. We just go through point blank, and we take point blank when we go through this. You have two options. I prefer point blank, endless munitions, gathering winds, and wind ward. So this gives us a little bit of survivability from a single big hit. So that's that. Nothing crazy here. Super simple. Just remember, jewels are the most important part of this build. I cannot stress that enough. People don't put enough emphasis on their jewels, and they are very, very powerful in this game, especially for bow builds. So please, please, please make sure you get your jewels, and you'll be all good. So with that, that pretty much sums up the build. I can give you a quick little recap of the Mobalytics. So again, we beat everything in the game with this. It's feels fantastic, bossing, mapping, whatever. Mods to look out for: you're obviously looking for physical damage, cold, attack speed, elemental damage with attacks, critical strike chance. I put high priority here just so you guys keep an eye out for that. But these are all just kind of general things you'll be looking for. Jewels, I have everything here. Obviously, bonus from quiver and critical strike chance are your main priority. And then if you can start tacking these on, that works. And as far as the mana on kill, you do need one jewel that has mana on kill. So as you can see, I have one here. This does not have a quiver on it. This is still a pretty nice jewel. We have crit hit chance. It is different. On the blue, it is critical hit chance. On the green, it is critical hit chance for attacks. So make sure you don't get critical hit chance for spells, because that won't do us any good. Make sure that if you're getting a blue one and you're looking for mana and you're looking for the, all that kind of stuff, you just get standard critical hit chance. Everything else is whatever. But you will want to, at the very least, have a 2% mana on kill somewhere in here in the tree. It is very important that you do so. So, unique against the darkness, megalomaniac, do the best you can. You'll just have to search and see what you can get. There's not a ton of options out. There's a million options, but there aren't a ton of options for things that would be perfect for your build. So you kind of just have to dig around and see what you can find. As far as leveling, you're going to start with lightning arrow. You don't get ice shot until level 35. So you're going to level with ice shot or lightning arrow and an elemental bow. If you have a nice fizz bow, that's fine. One of the uniques is also good. Attack speed or whatever. The hell's the one that shoots a bunch of arrows, all that, whatever it is, that's fine. But you'll swap over to lightning or to ice shot at level 35. That's when you'll unlock it. And then somewhere around 55 is when you want to convert to a physical bow. Again, you might have a nice bow to level with that's physical. It'll be fine for now because everything is converted. So all good. It's just a little bit easier to get elemental damage early in the game than it is to get physical. So that's why I say that. If you have a fizz, use a fizz bow. Single target, remember, use your orb of storms and lightning rod. Ice shot is for clearing maps and rares and all that kind of stuff. You need spirit on the chest and a little bit on the amulet. Again, get as much as you can. You can even, if you had really nice Ventors Gamble unique rings, you might have some spirit on those too, which would work. So just depends on what you already have, how much money you have, what you're willing to do. We have all the gear here. This is all the stuff that's on my build. Again, feel free to use a rare belt until you get headhunter. Definitely get the hands of wisdom before you get headhunter. This is more important, but this is a lot of fun. So do what you can, but headhunter should probably be the last unique that you get. Behind the jewels and all that kind of stuff. Definitely start with the hands of wisdom in action. And I have this here as far as the flasks go. If you can't afford the unique ones, I know they're very expensive, then use the 30% recovery applied instantly plus gains charges every 0.2 or gains a charge every 0.25 charge every second. Hang on, that's incorrect. Let me change that. All right, I don't think I'll fix it in a bit. Okay, and then we have all the gems here. We have the tree. We have the Atlas tree, and then we have a bunch of frequently asked questions and things like that. Amulet annoyance, cast on gems. If you use cast on shock, it is better for bossing and single target. If you use cast on freeze, it is better for mapping. Why? Ice shot freezes, so you freeze a lot more. And then that cast on freeze. If you want to tear down bosses, you're better off with cast on shock, because you'll shock a lot more often than you'll freeze. So there's the Mobalytics. I hope that was sufficient. I hope this is helpful. If you guys have questions, I'm live pretty much every day. If you're watching this evening, I will be live tomorrow morning, Pacific Standard Time. So yeah, I appreciate all you guys. Like, subscribe, do all that kind of stuff, and we'll see you guys on stream. Appreciate you. Later.